The movie began with a man named Ben begging his boss to reinstate him so that he could buy medicine for his sick daughter. However, the man disregarded his imploration and asked him to leave. Before leaving, Ben banged on the table and told him that he spared him only because of his sick daughter. Afterward, Ben walked away. On his way back home, Ben saw an advertisement on TV for a deadly game show called The Running Man, in which contestants could win $1 billion if they survived for 30 days without getting hunted by a group of hunters employed by the company and without being reported by locals too. Ben brushed off the advertisement and continued on his way home. Later, Ben watched another game show called Speed the Wheel on TV, where contestants risked their lives to win a large amount of money. In reality, Ben was down and out and in dire need of money to run his household. More importantly, he needed money to cure his sick daughter, Kathy. Ben easily answered the questions on the show, showing that he had good knowledge of such game shows. However, the contestant failed to answer the question and lost his life. Meanwhile, Sheila, Ben's wife, returned from her waitress job. She asked Ben about their daughter's condition, and Ben replied that Kathy was burning with fever. Ben noticed that Sheila brought spurious medicine and became slightly disgruntled. He told her that he had approached his boss to restore his job, but he refused and turned him away. Sheila noticed that Kathy wasn't wearing a sock on one leg and asked Ben about it. While searching for the sock, Ben saw Sheila preparing to leave again for her shift at the club and became annoyed. Sheila tried to convince him, explaining that she had to work double shifts to make ends meet. Sheila then pointed out that they urgently needed money to buy genuine medicine for their sick daughter and that they had no other choice. Meanwhile, Ben saw another advertisement for The Running Man on TV. Sheila made him promise that he would not go on The Running Man as no one had ever returned alive. Ben promised her and set out to find a show that could pull him out of his financial crisis. He entered the part of the city where only the rich lived and arrived at the network building that ran The Running Man show to give a tryout. Ben stood in a queue of poor people who were hoping to be selected. While waiting in the queue, he found Kathy's sock in his hoodie and laughed at himself. An elderly man in the queue, who also came to try his luck, suddenly fell sick. Ben immediately rushed to help him, but the guards did not like his magnanimity and beat him before sending him back to the line. Sometime later, Ben reached the desk where he noticed a warning sign on his profile on the screen and asked the man about it. The man inside the cabin told him that it was due to his insubordination. He then mentioned Ben's daughter, which enraged Ben and caused him to bang on the cabin glass, nearly shattering it. As a result, the man sent him to Elevator 6. Ben arrived at the assigned area, where he met Laughlin and Tim, two other participants. They entered the elevator and reached the area where the contestants were preparing for the tryouts. Ben put on his gear and participated in the trial. During the challenge, Ben helped Tim survive, but a guard signaled a violation for breaking the rules and charged at Ben.
You didn't have to do that back there.
Obedience.
Ben managed to ward off the attack. Afterward, Ben underwent a psychological test which he passed with flying colors due to his aggressive nature. Later, the remaining contestants entered a room where they found jumpsuits for the next trial. Ben put on his assigned jumpsuit and entered the elevator with Laughlin and Tim. Soon, they arrived upstairs. Tim and Laughlin received escorts who led them to their assigned rooms. Ben then went into an office to meet Dan Killian, the producer of The Running Man. Dan asked Ben to sit down and gave him an envelope containing $500 as a signing bonus, saying that he knew Ben had been going through a hard time. However, Ben refused to participate in the show, stating that he would try other shows instead. In response, Dan explained that most game shows offered no more than $1,000 as prize money, which was not enough to lift Ben's family out of poverty. In contrast, merely surviving 1 week on The Running Man placed Ben in the top 1% of global wealth. Realizing his helplessness and the urgent need for proper medicine for his daughter, Ben signed the agreement and officially became a running man. Meanwhile, a female escort arrived in Ben's room, but the virtuous Ben refused her, saying that he was married and had a daughter. Ben later dreamed of smashing Dan's head on the table after Dan made an offensive remark about his wife, Sheila. Ben then entered another elevator and met Agent Doug, who informed him that his family had been safely relocated and that the company would now be responsible for their security. Doug asked Ben to make a phone call to his wife before the show started, but Ben said that he wanted to see his family himself and promised to return before morning. Doug refused, saying it was against the contract. Instead, he allowed Ben to speak to his wife on the phone. Ben told Sheila that he was at the network building and that he was fine. He added that she would receive $500 in cash from a man named Doug so she could take Kathy to a real doctor. Sheila asked him what he was doing, and Ben revealed that he had joined the Running Man show, leaving her heartbroken. Ben then stayed in his assigned room, watching TV and waiting for the game to begin. Soon afterward, an envelope slid through the gap beneath the door, delivered by a mailman. Ben picked it up and found a photograph of his wife and daughter inside. On the back of the photo, Sheila had written that he should keep Kathy's sock for luck, confirming that the envelope came from her. Moments later, Doug arrived and informed Ben that the show was about to start. He handed Ben a running band, which Ben wore on his wrist to track rewards, reminders, and timers. Ben met Dan, who asked him to speak his mind before the crowd. Dan then introduced him to Bobby T, the host of the show. An advertisement was played on the big screen, claiming that thieves, fraudsters, and other criminals participated in the show for money. Bobby arrived on stage and energized the cheering crowd before introducing Ben. Bobby told the audience that Ben had once held a full-time job at DefenseNet, had lost it after leaking military secrets. To support this claim, Bobby played a fake video declaring Ben a traitor. Ben visibly protested, insisting that he had never done such a thing. Bobby even used Sheila's name to provoke the crowd further. Dan then announced that Ben would earn a $10,000 bonus for every hunter he killed. Ben threatened Dan in return, saying he would strike him down someday. The rules of the game were then explained to the three contestants, Tim, Laughlin, and Ben. Bobby stated that runners would receive a $1,000 advance and a 12-hour head start. The hunters could not pursue them until the Record and Report app went live. The second rule required runners to record at least 10 minutes of on-cam footage each day and submit the tape in an envelope to a Network Drone Express mailbox before midnight, or they would be disqualified. The runners had to survive for 30 days while evading the hunters. The third rule was simple. Run far, get rich. Surviving until midnight the next day earned $5,000, with rewards increasing by $1,000 each day and doubling at the end of every week. The grand prize for surviving all 30 days was $1 billion. However, to win it, the runners had to evade a group of hunters led by Chief McCone, as well as the general public. Tim, Laughlin, and Ben entered their respective elevators, officially starting the game. Ben left his elevator and found a new outfit that he had to wear to blend in with ordinary people. He changed clothes and sprinted toward the exit as the timer had begun. Ben had to survive the night without being hunted or reported by civilians. He jumped into a taxi, but the driver immediately recognized him and asked to take a picture. Ben refused, prompting the driver to warn him that people would report him if he did not cooperate. Ben got out of the taxi without paying and sprinted to Obama 13 to meet his friend. He arrived at his friend Molly's workplace and begged him for 2 ID cards and a gun. Molly was furious that Ben had joined the Running Man and ordered him to leave immediately, saying that Ben had endangered his life as well. Ben explained that he had no choice because his daughter Kathy was seriously ill and needed medical treatment. Moved by his desperation, Molly gave Ben a forged ID card under the name John Springer. Molly then showed him a suit, saying that he had planned to hire Ben as a business partner, which left Ben disappointed in himself. Ben boarded a train bound for New York and noticed his running band flashing, indicating that the hunt had officially begun. A boy on the train merely wanted to tell Ben that his mustache was falling off, but Ben unnecessarily threatened him, warning him not to report him or he would kill him instantly. Realizing his mistake, Ben apologized and gave the boy a packet of snacks to make amends for his immature behavior. He checked into a hotel under the name John Springer, hiding himself from the hunters. Following the rules of the game, he filmed a video, placed the tape inside an envelope, and left the hotel to drop it into a Network Drone Express mailbox. While watching TV, Ben was informed that he had earned a reward of $5,000 on his band for successfully surviving one day. Molly was apprehended and chastised by the hunters for helping Ben, so he revealed that Ben was hiding under the name John Springer. The hunters tracked Ben down to the Brandt Hotel, while Ben remained unaware of their arrival upstairs. He later woke up from his nightmare and watched on the TV, only to see that Tim, who had been hiding under the name Mr. Jansky, had been reported by the hotel clerk he was trying to flirt with. Soon after, Captain McCone arrived and hunted him down on the spot. Ben moved to Boston, making it harder for the hunters to track him down. Ben secretly contacted a man and urged him to provide room and board. In return, Ben offered him $100, but the kind man refused to take it. Ben entered the hotel room, successfully dodging the hunters for one more night. While searching through the belongings in the room, Ben found a box containing a grenade among other items. He recoiled in fear, but the grenade did not go off. Soon, Ben received a message on his band, reminding him to mail his tape before midnight. From the window, Ben spotted a man sitting on a bench in the street, strangely talking to himself. He shrugged it off and went to take a shower, unaware that a drone was closely watching him from outside the window. On his way to the bathroom, Ben realized that the man he had just seen outside was also on the show that night. Sensing danger, Ben rushed to the window only to find Captain McCone stepping out of the truck and meeting his team. Soon, the hunters sneaked into the building and began searching for their prey. Ben rushed into the bathroom to escape through the window, but it was blocked by a fan. He quietly ran upstairs and misled the hunters by claiming that he had seen Ben heading downstairs. He then dashed to the rooftop, wearing only a towel around his waist. Ben removed it and sneaked back into his room through the rear window. He hurriedly grabbed his bag while Captain McCone and the hunters were ready to storm in. Before leaving, Ben took the grenade left behind by the previous runner. As the hunters opened fire, Ben escaped through the back window using a rope tied to a glowing sign. The sign began to loosen and fall. Ben smashed through a window, entered another room, and fled. Ben rushed into an elevator and managed to grab and destroy a drone that was filming him. He hurled the grenade at Captain McCone, but the captain kicked it back toward him. To light the dark basement, Ben set a magazine on fire, but accidentally ignited the room. He noticed rats running toward a manhole on the floor. Before the hunters could reach him, Ben followed the rats and escaped through the manhole. Soon, the entire hotel exploded, killing several hunters. Ben reached the sewer and swam his way out. He then recorded a video, strictly following the rules. Soon after, a boy named Stacy noticed movement behind him, so he began searching for Ben. Ben grabbed the boy and asked if he had reported him. Stacy denied it and said his brother could help. Stacy asked Ben to stay hidden and promised to return shortly with his brother. Soon, Ben received an alert on his band informing him that he had earned an $800,000 bonus for killing a hunter. Moments later, Stacy returned with his elder brother, Brad. Ben offered to pay them if they helped him stay off the streets for the night. Brad refused to take money, but Stacy reminded him of their sister, who was suffering from cancer. Ben gave Stacy $10 to buy medicine for his sick sister. Brad took Ben to his house where Ben asked why they were helping him instead of reporting him to the network and claiming the reward money. Brad explained that he knew the network well and said they would arrest them instead of paying the reward. Ben then asked how their sister developed lung cancer. Brad explained that it was caused by radioactive dust from the Rhode Island explosion, a truth the network had buried. Ben recorded a video exposing the network, accusing it of poisoning children and covering up the truth. Later, Ben watched The Running Man and saw Bobby misleading the audience, claiming that Ben had killed 7 men and 1 woman the previous night. Bobby played a fake tape in which Ben appeared to enjoy killing hunters and mock their children. Enraged by this, Brad's mother demanded that her sons throw Ben out of the house. Ben insisted that the video was fake and had been manipulated by the network. Despite their mother's orders, Brad and Stacy chose to help Ben. They hid him in the trunk of a car and drove away. The hunters soon tracked the car and began following them. Brad suddenly slammed the brakes, causing the bikers to crash. Brad escaped to a secret location. Brad handed Ben a card and told him to meet a man named Elton, who could help him escape to Boston. Ben later checked into a hotel, disguised as a blind reverend. When the receptionist asked if he had seen Ben Richards, Ben denied it. Afterward, he stepped outside to drop his envelope into a Network Drone Express mailbox, unaware that a hunter disguised as a cleaner was watching him closely. However, Ben soon realized it and charged at him. He hurriedly dropped the envelope into the mailbox and fled the scene while the hunters and goons did their best to hunt him down. Ben somehow managed to dodge them and save himself. Ben arrived at a place where a crowd was watching The Running Man on a big screen. Meanwhile, Laughlin was at a casino, and soon afterward, the hunters reached there. Laughlin managed to escape the casino, but shortly afterward, 2 local boys blew up her car, killing her in the explosion. With that, Ben became the only contestant left alive. Ben reached Elton's house, and Elton let him in. There, Ben discovered Elton's mother watching him on TV. Elton then took Ben to his lab, where Ben asked him about the hot dog cart. Elton explained that his father had been a good cop who quit his job in protest when the network privatized the local police. He believed that officers should be accountable to the towns that paid them, not to the government. To make ends meet, his father bought the cart to keep the wolf from the door. However, his former colleagues, who worked for the network, disliked his stance and eventually killed him. Since then, Elton had sought revenge. Elton played a tape revealing that his father had discovered a bunker in a nearby forest. He assured Ben that the bunker could keep him safe for the next 14 days. Elton then gave Ben a room across the hall to spend the night, and Ben thanked him for his help. Later, Ben stepped out of his room, but Elton's mother saw him and rushed to press a button to inform the network. Elton stopped her just in time. Moments later, Elton pressed the button himself and falsely reported that Ben had broken into his home. Ben quickly packed his bag and prepared to leave, but before he could escape, network goons arrived and opened fire on the house. Elton had intentionally lured the goons there to kill them in revenge. He descended into a tunnel with Ben, leading him toward the forest bunker, but a goon stabbed Elton in the stomach. The attacker then turned on Ben and began choking him. Despite his injury, Elton grabbed a knife and slashed the goon's Achilles tendon, forcing him to release Ben. Dan sent a drone into the tunnel and ordered Ben to kill the hunter. Instead, Ben destroyed the drone and escaped by crashing through a door in a vehicle. Ben drove into the forest with Elton toward the shelter, but Captain McCone, flying overhead in a helicopter, shot Elton in the head. Soon after, Ben found himself cornered by hunters on the bridge. With no other choice, he drove the vehicle at full speed and jumped out just before it exploded. Ben then received a bonus alert on his band, informing him that he had earned $100,000 new for killing another hunter. Ben searched for the bunker using a map and eventually reached the location, only to discover that the bunker no longer existed as the network had built a human settlement there. Disappointed, Ben hid in a pit outside an abandoned house. That night, he hallucinated visions of his wife and daughter. Sheila told him that people on the show never came back. Ben woke up and recorded a message for Dan Killian, threatening to put an end to everything and reunite with his family. Shortly afterward, drones detected his location, forcing Ben to flee. He hijacked a car and climbed inside, taking the driver, Amelia, hostage. Ben urged her to drive fast, warning that they would be blown apart by the hunters if they stopped. Amelia angrily confronted Ben, accusing him of abandoning his wife and daughter to kill people for money. Ben showed her a photograph of his family and explained that the show was fake and designed to make people like her feel superior to people like him. He pointed out that her scarf cost more than what he needed to buy medicine for his daughter. Meanwhile, the network hacked Amelia's car and forced it to stop. Two armed local men stepped out of a truck and demanded that Amelia exit the vehicle. Just as she complied, a drone appeared, killed both men, and blew up the truck. Amelia was horrified when the network aired a fake video showing her screaming for help. Ben noticed that the surrounding crowd was cheering for him. Ben discovered Captain McCone and the remaining hunters blocking the road. Using a bullhorn, Ben threatened to detonate explosives hidden in the car unless they cleared the way. He demanded an airplane and insisted that 2 parachutes be handed to Amelia at the base of the ramp. Ben gave them 1 minute to comply or face destruction. Dan ordered McCone to let Ben and Amelia go. McCone handed a parachute to Amelia and allowed her to board the plane, but Ben refused to board until McCone removed his mask. On Dan's orders, McCone complied and revealed his face. Ben then entered the cockpit and found several hunters disguised as pilots. He asked them to fly him to Canada. McCone asked Ben to take his last meal before he received clearance to blow his head off in front of billions of viewers. This led to a heated argument between them, but before things could spiral out of control, Amelia intervened and insisted that Ben show McCone the bomb he claimed to have before McCone killed them all. Ben demanded that Dan order his hunters to follow Ben's instructions, or he would blow up the jet. In response, Dan revealed that he knew Ben was bluffing and had no bomb at all. This revelation left Ben stunned. Dan explained that the jet was equipped with scanners built into its doors, which detected nothing on Ben except Amelia's handbag. Hearing this, Captain McCone moved to shoot Ben, but Dan stopped him, saying that the show had not officially started yet. Dan then spoke to Ben privately and offered him a deal. Ben could become a hunter on the show and earn $5 million per season. In return, Ben would have to kill every hunter on the plane when Bobby cued him. Afterward, Dan would remotely pilot the jet back to the studio jetport, where the President of the United States would declare Ben Hunter number 6. Ben cut Dan short and rejected the offer, refusing to become a hunter. Then, Dan showed Ben footage claiming that McCone and the hunters in the cockpit had murdered his family. Enraged, Ben watched as Dan urged him to pick up a gun and avenge them. Dan threatened that if Ben refused to sign the contract, he would have him killed by the same assassins who killed his family. Soon, the game officially began, and Bobby showed the crowd footage implying that Evan McCone had killed Ben's family, something he was never supposed to do. One of the pilots exited the cockpit, intending to kill Ben, but Ben was already prepared. A fierce fight broke out, and Ben managed to kill all the hunters aboard the plane. He then searched for McCone, who ambushed him from behind. A brutal fight erupted between them, during which McCone gravely wounded Ben with a shard of glass. McCone revealed that he had once been a runner himself and had survived for 29 days. He admitted that the network would torture families if necessary and finally revealed that the footage of Ben's family was fake. Just as McCone prepared to shoot Ben, the plane hit turbulence, slamming McCone into the emergency door. McCone pulled out a knife and attempted to stab Ben, but Ben grabbed the handle of McCone's parachute. The parachute became stuck in the door, and Ben seized the opportunity to stab McCone, killing him. With the plane rapidly descending, Ben ordered Amelia to jump. A drone followed her as she leaped, and she pulled her parachute cord and floated safely away. Dan then congratulated Ben on winning the show and introduced him to the audience as Hunter number 6. Instead of celebrating, Ben exposed the network and Dan Killian live on air to millions of viewers. A missile was launched at the falling plane, intended to kill Ben midair. Meanwhile, Brad hacked into the network system and exposed its crimes, revealing that the network had fabricated footage and manipulated crowds to control public perception. Elsewhere, Sheila used the money Ben had sent her to buy essential groceries. Outside the supermarket, she was stunned to see Ben standing there, waiting for her. As the truth spread, the crowd turned against Bobby, forcing him to flee his job. Chaos erupted throughout the city, and Dan attempted to escape. While running, he tripped over a wire and collapsed to the floor. Soon after, Ben appeared and shot Dan in the head, killing him. You were watching a recap of the movie The Running Man, 2025. Thank you for watching and enjoy our other videos as well.